Good here. All right. Thank you. Ready? All right. If I can have everybody's attention, please. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank y'all for coming. This is our OT month celebration. April is OT month, and most of our audience is OT. So welcome and to our colleagues from UTRGV. Thank y'all for coming. I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Shawn Russell. He is a 2012 graduate of our COTA program, our OTA program. After graduation, we've become good friends. We've kept in touch over the years, and he just called me out of the blue one day. I was in Chicago. We're talking about something else at the time, about a new project to work on. And he told me he wrote a book, and he started telling me about his book. And I'm like, wow, you need to come down and read the book and present your book. So I invited him. He's gracious enough to appear here, and I'd like to thank you for coming in, Shawn. And thank you for the invite. Anything, let us know, and I'll let you take over from there. Everybody, Mr. Shawn Russell.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming. This is kind of a big deal for me because this is the first time I've spoken in front of a crowd like this, probably in over a year. And then before that, there was another year. I used to perform a lot. I was a musician, and I did positive hip hop in the community, and I would perform 2-3 times a week sometimes twice in the same night, all over South Texas. And then something happened, and it made me step away from doing that. And I swore that I wouldn't do that ever again, because I felt like that's what led to what I would tell you about. So for me to stand here in front of everybody and kind of talk about what's going on, it's kind of a big deal for me. So I really appreciate you being here. My name is Shawn Elliot Russell. Let me put up this. As you can see, I wrote a book named Be Still Little Tree, Be Still, and unbeknownst to me at the time, it turns out it's a really good fit for occupational therapy. And I really didn't write it with that intent. I wrote it because at the time I needed to express and share something that I had been through, and I wanted to try to help other people. In 2006, at that time I was performing a lot. I'm from South Florida. I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder with panic attacks and derealization. It hit me out of the blue. I had never had that experience before. I was performing a lot and putting myself under a lot of stress and not sleeping. I wasn't eating. And one day on the way down to Fort Lauderdale from where I lived in Boca Raton, I had a panic attack. It was my first panic attack I had ever had. And I didn't know what it was when it happened. I just knew that I needed to get off the expressway, and I ended up pulling into a train station that was right off the expressway. And I pulled into the parking lot, and I'm sitting in the car, and all these emotions and thoughts started going through my head. I was very scared. I don't know if anybody in here has ever had an anxiety attack or panic attack, but you feel like the world is crashing in and or you're going to die. It's just how it feels. And at the same time, I think there was a train coming. It's a little foggy, even as I try to remember it. But I had the thought occur to me to jump in front of the train. This is something that just kept going on in my head. Jump in front of the train, jump in front of the train, jump in front of the train. Which scared the heck out of me because it's the last thing I wanted to do. So I locked the doors, and I called my parents who lived in the area at that time. I said, I don't know what's going on, but I'm petrified. Can you come get me? So they came, they got me, we got my car later, and a couple days later is when I went to a psychiatrist to figure out what was going on, and then I was diagnosed with that. And I was put on medication by the name of Celexa. Its generic term is citalopram, if you take the generic pill. And I was on that for about 4 or 5 years on and off. I would try to get off, and then I would panic again, and so it was a little bit of a roller coaster for me. I finally got off in 2012, I want to say. It was in maybe 2011. And I was fine. I didn't have any more panic. There wasn't any of that going on. And I formed a band by the name of the Van Goghs, and I started performing a lot again, as I said earlier. And I did it to myself again. I didn't know I was doing it to myself again. Because in certain aspects, I'm a type A personality. So when I get, or I was anyway, so when I get my mind focused on something, there's nothing that'll stop me. I'll be up until all hours of the morning until I finish exactly what I want to finish. And it has to be my way. If there's any other way that's presented to me and it's not my vision or not what I think is right, I threw it out the door and I just keep going. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, and it happened again. I was at work, I was at the nursing home that I was working at. I had already graduated, and I had a panic attack, only this panic attack was different. I felt like I was going to die because my heart was pounding out of my chest, but it was just a different experience. So I went to the emergency room. My wonderful girlfriend met me there and stayed by me. And that night, I quit the band. It was my vision. That was a lifelong dream that I, well, not lifelong, but it was a long dream that I had. I had created this band. It took me years to put it together. We were making progress. We'd been to Austin. We were on the radio. We had gotten invited to play at the House of Blues in Houston to open up for the band that I had actually kind of modeled the band after. So it was quite an honor to be asked to open up for them in Houston. And I had to say no, because that happened right when I had the panic attack. So everything seemingly on the outside was going well. We were doing a lot of stuff for the community with the RGB Food Bank. We've been on TV. We were selling albums. Performances were going well. But still, here it was back again. Only this time, it was robbing me, I felt, of something that I had been working so hard for. So I quit the band that night because I remembered how hard it was in 2006, and I didn't want to do that to myself again. I tried to get back on the Celexa. I went to my doctor and said, here's what's happening. I've taken this before. Can you please give me a prescription? And he trusted me, so he said, okay, if you're sure, here's a prescription for the Celexa. I tried to take it, but the pill was different. It looked different. It was a different shape, a darker color pink. And I took it, and 4 hours later, I took it at night because I used to take it at night. It would help me sleep. 4 hours later, I woke up in a full-blown panic attack. This is how I woke up. I run in the living room, and my heart's pounding, and I know what's going on, but you have to kind of wait it out at that point. There's nothing you could really do about it. It has to run its course. So I did some research online, and it said sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. That had never happened to me before. The first time I took the pills, I never felt any side effects. I just got better. So I knew something was different. I tried taking the pill again and again. It said you have to go through it for about a month, which was a little ludicrous to me that you have to go through such turmoil before it can make you better. I tried it 3 nights in a row, and 3 nights in a row I woke up 4:30 in the morning, panic attack, full blown. I stopped the 4th night, no panic attack. I was panicky because I was already in a state of heightened anxiety over everything that was happening in my life. But I didn't have the panic attack. So I tried it one more time. I said, okay, let me tough it out. Everybody else is able to do it. I can do it too. So I took it again on Friday, panic attack. That's it, I'm done. I'm not taking this anymore. It's making it worse. At that point, I developed agoraphobia. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what agoraphobia is, but that's when you can't leave a safe place. So it was difficult for me to go to the grocery store, which was half a mile from my house. That would lead to a panic attack. These are things that I could do every day. You grow up doing these things. You grow up driving and visiting your friends and doing all these normal things, and all of a sudden you can't do this stuff. And it really, it kind of blows your sense of confidence, your sense of self right out of the water. You don't know who you are anymore. And there's no ground. There's nowhere to grab onto to find some type of safety. So I went to a psychiatrist in Harlingen, And she said, okay, it's not working. And I said, I think it's a branded generic pill. There's something in it that my brain is just not liking. It's a problem. So she gave me 2 pills this time. She said, well, I'm going to give you 2 different medications. This one is for anxiety that we give cancer patients because you're not eating. At that time, I had lost 25, 30 pounds in a month, I want to say. I couldn't eat. So, and those that have known me before know I was a bigger guy. I was very much into working out. I'm probably about 178 now, but when you guys knew me, I was about 2 something. It's a pretty hefty guy. So I lost all that weight. I haven't really gained it back. So they wanted to give me this pill for cancer patients, and then they also wanted to give me another one that was a long-lasting version of Xanax. Okay, so I took those home, and I think I filled the prescriptions. But I asked myself, do I really want to take this medication and be a zombie? Because that's what was going to happen. I was just going to be there, and I wasn't going to be able to live or be myself. So I didn't. I didn't take the medication. I decided that I would rather face what was happening head on and overcome it rather than run away from it. That was a big moment for me. That was the start of this journey that I've been on for the past almost 2 years now. Getting all emotional about it. It's been tough, but it's been amazing. I'm 100% different person than I was when you guys knew me. And it's because one more. It's because of this journey. And that's where the book came from. I tried different things. I swore I'd never write music again, and this is because I would write all the time. I had a studio in my house, and I would record and perform, and so I thought it was the music. At that time, I said, this is the music doing it to me. It's an obsession. I need to get away from it. I ended up writing a whole album in like a month after that. And it was entirely about what I was going through. It's called Phoenix. You can download it online for free. Or you can leave a tip. It's on noisetrade.com. It's under Shawn Elliot, Phoenix. And it's about 12 or 13 tracks. And it's some of the best work I've ever done in my life. And it's very heartfelt, it's honest, and it's hip hop, but it's spoken word poetry to a beat. And if you leave a tip, all the money from the tip goes to Estrella's house, which is a children's advocacy center that's here. So it goes directly to them. I don't see it. So I ended up writing music, and I found myself, I kept writing and writing and writing, and actually without trying, because I didn't want to be on the foreground anymore. I just wanted to express myself. I needed an outlet, and this was the only outlet I knew. Without trying, I ended up joining a site called Hit Record at the suggestion of a good friend of mine, Ray Perez, and I ended up writing some music that ended up on television, and I made more money off that music than I had made in my entire musical career. And it's hosted by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I don't know if you know him as the actor, but he was the host, and it was kind of cool to get some recognition from somebody in the entertainment field after trying for so long. But I wasn't even trying to do that, so it was a nice kind of surprise, and it's a lesson that sometimes you have to kind of just let go of the reins and let life lead you, and trust that it can lead you to where you want to be. So I tried different things for a little bit, and that worked, but the anxiety kept coming back. I found it harder and harder to drive distances. My grandmother lives in Weslaco, and I was having a hard time driving to Weslaco. And then I would have a hard time driving to San Juan, and then a hard time driving to Far. And then it just kept getting closer and closer. The distance kept closing in on me, and I didn't know why. So finally, after a certain amount of time, I decided to quit my home health job. I was doing home health at the time. Because I couldn't drive, I hired my girlfriend. Well, I will not point out because she wouldn't want me to do that, but she was my savior at that time. I hired her to drive me around, so we were a team and we got to hang out all day and do that. But it was a lot for me because even somebody else driving me that distance, we covered everywhere from Mercedes to past La Jolla. I don't know what the next one is, not Rio Grande City, but it's Sullivan City. So we were all over the place. That was causing me a lot of anxiety. So I quit that. And that's what led to the peds. So I was jobless for 3 months because I was certain that I did not want to do pediatric work. Ms. Casas, she was my pediatric clinical instructor at that time. It's before that she was an instructor here full-time. And she can definitely attest to the fact that when I did my rotation with her, it was probably one of the hardest, and it didn't go well. I was able to do the work, but I said, I will never do this again. There was even a time where I pulled her aside and said, listen, I need a break or something because I don't think I could take dealing with these children.
We do that too.
So there's lots of pediatric work out there. If you've already been looking at the job market, you'll know that there's a lot of pediatric work. But I refused to do pediatric work. Actually, at the time, through the home health, I'd become really good at doing this one type of thing, or at least I thought it was, and working on shoulders. And I wanted to do that specific work. And I said, I'm not going to work until I can find that. And I had enough money saved up to where I had like a month or two that I could wait it out. In the meantime, I had seen something regarding an Oprah Winfrey and Deepak Chopra meditation. It's a free 30-day meditation. So I tried it. So why not? I had tried mindfulness meditation before and I felt like it made me worse. With derealization, it's an interesting thing. They can't really put their fingers on it. But I've been able to kind of help out this one psychologist that I grew close with, help other people, because through my own observance I've been able to kind of determine what exactly it is. You feel like you're not there. It feels like you're dreaming. The best way I can describe it is when you're drunk and you feel like everything is kind of, I'm here, but I don't really feel like I'm here. Except without the calm feeling. Mix that with terror, and then there you go. It's really off-putting when you feel like you want to be there. You have a question? Oh, I thought it's like so mindfulness meditation, because you go inward, it made me feel that times 1,000. It made me feel worse. So I swore it off. I wasn't going to do it. But I had nowhere else to turn to. I tried everything else, and I refused to take medication. So I tried it. And I would feel weird, but I stuck through it. And after a week, 2 weeks, I noticed that my body started to calm down a little bit. And even though I felt kind of strange, it would go away. And then I was able to drive a little further, and I even did some spoken word poetry one night. So after the month-long meditation was over, I was intrigued, I was curious. And now I started going from being afraid of what was happening to me and what I was feeling to being very, very curious about what was happening. I love to solve problems, so I turned it into a problem to solve. What's going on with me? Why do I feel like this? Why is my life turned upside down? I want it back. How can I fix it? So I turned to mindfulness meditation even more. I started reading people like Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Vietnamese monk. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize by Martin Luther King Jr. And he's very much about love and peace. And he's a Buddhist monk. And I started reading more about Deepak Chopra, and I just started getting really interested. I found myself staying up really late studying neuroscience, psychology, spiritualism, Buddhism, Hinduism. I was just looking at anything, mindfulness. I was looking for answers to anything to understand what was going on up here. I kept meditating, And I noticed that I was able to be aware now of what was happening. It still scared the bejesus out of me, but at least I was aware of it. At least I could see what was going on. I could see what was happening. But I had no real, they say when you do it, sometimes when you really get into it, you should have a leader that kind of leads you and kind of walks you through it, because you can get into some real, you start getting into your psyche and all this stuff that built up. I had none of that. I just had my curiosity and my penchant for obsession. So I was in there all the time. I got to a couple places that were a little iffy. There was a couple times where I thought I was becoming schizophrenic. It was a little scary. But I still stuck through it because I wanted to get to the bottom of what was going on. And I don't say that to scare you away from mindfulness. It was my own. That was my own doing. And I'll touch on that in a second. So as I kept going and I kept going and I kept going, I noticed that my ability to handle things, including myself, was different. And I found out that I was scared of being scared. That's really what it amounted to. I was afraid of feeling overwhelmed. We're not taught, most of us, as children, that emotions are not to be suppressed, that you have to actually let them run their course. It's like anything else. It's like the weather. You know, when a storm is coming, we go inside, but we're not out there trying to fight the storm so that way it doesn't rain and thunder and lightning. We let it do its thing because we know that eventually it's going to pass, and we actually know after it passes, stuff can grow from it. This is our body. When you look at nature, you're looking at a reflection of yourself, because we are nature. So I learned that emotions are supposed to take their course. They're supposed to run. It's okay to feel anxious. We all have felt anxious, nervous, angry, sad, depressed. These are just emotions that take place in our body, but they have something to teach us. But it's scary after, I'm 37. I'm 37 this year. And it's scary after, I'm guessing I was like this for most of my life, at least my adult life. It's scary after 15, 20 years of suppressing things to let go and see what happens. Because your mind is going, if you let go, something bad's going to happen. You're going to go crazy. You're going to do something that you can't control. And it just keeps going and going. But I did. I let go. Because what else was my other option? Was I going to sit in a corner and not be able to go to the grocery store anymore? I'd rather go crazy and at least go to the grocery store crazy, whatever crazy is, than be stuck and scared of myself. You kind of get to that point, or at least I did. So now to the book. That's it. So that's a little bit of my background. So now on to the book. I'd never written a children's book before. I was contacted last October. Yeah, it was October. By an elementary school teacher, 4th grade teacher. She said, would you mind coming in and doing some spoken word poetry for our kids? And mind you, I hadn't done anything like that at all. But I said yes. My initial instinct was to say yes. And this was through Facebook Messenger, so I said yes, and then, the message ended. And I realized I don't have anything for kids. All my stuff is adult-based. What am I going to do? I guess I have to write something new for kids. That night, I wrote a children's story. First time ever writing a children's story. It's called The Boy Who Lost His Imagination. I was really happy with it. It was a good catharsis. It was about belief, believing in yourself. And it was very much me. I was the boy. So again, with the help of my girlfriend, we went in and talked to a couple kids and read the story, and it went really well. About a week later, I'm standing at my counter and I get the title, Be Still Little Tree, Be Still. It just pops in my head. That's interesting. I wonder what that's about. So I sit down and I start writing, and when I write, I try not to think. I try to just write. They call it the flow. You're in the moment, in the now. So I'm just going. And I wrote the story pretty much mostly that night. I do it on my phone, so I could be anywhere. The toilet's my favorite place. Nice and quiet. I'll be there for hours. I wrote the story that night. I edited it a little bit, And then I put it aside because The Boy Who Lost His Imagination, the people I was sending it to, was getting such great response, especially from adults. Adults were saying, I really enjoy this. You should do something with this. That December, this is just this past December, I hadn't seen my mom in 3 years. The panic of getting on an airplane for agoraphobics, people suffering from agoraphobia, to get a little bit away from the house is a big deal. To get on an airplane and go to an entirely different state is a huge deal. Forget about it. You're definitely going to have a panic attack. But I hadn't seen her in forever, and I trusted in my practice. So I said, okay, let's do it. So we got on an airplane, had a panic attack on the way there, had a panic attack on the way back. But I made it. And it only lasted about half an hour. It was super intense. But I got a chance to sit there and watch the adrenaline and everything go through my whole system. Everything that it does. All the thoughts, all the feelings, all the sensations. Wanting to get away, wanting to run. Where are you going to go? You're in an airplane. You're going to jump out, or are you going to sit in the seat and at least get to where you want to go? So I got to see my mama. On the way back, I said, this really does work. I was convinced it worked before, but now I knew, because I faced one of my biggest fears, just getting in an airplane and getting that far away, and I did it using mindfulness. There was no medication involved. So that's when I said, this is it. This is the one that I feel like I have to do this. I feel it was a tug in my heart. I have to put this out, or I have to at least illustrate it and try to get it to people's hands. So that was in December. I began illustrating this 2 weeks before New Year's. And my girlfriend will tell you, I sat down on the couch after I get home from work, and I didn't move from the couch until midnight, 1, which is my usual bedtime, even though it's not good for me, but that's where I'm at. And I illustrated this whole book in 2 weeks. The whole book. I'm kind of amazed myself because I'd never done this before. I've illustrated stuff. I've done graphic work. But I bought a tablet. I've used Photoshop a little bit. Taught myself Illustrator. I would draw it, scan it in, put it in the programs, color it, put the words on the page. And in 2 weeks, on New Year's Eve, I had a book. I had an illustrated book. That's how I started the new year. The next week, I started sending it out to people. I just wanted to share it with people and get response. So I shared it with my friends. They liked it. I shared it with some organizations. There's an organization in California named Mindful Schools, and they actually teach mindfulness to adults so that they can teach it to children. And they have thousands, I want to say 8,000 people across the world. I sent it to them, and I got a call back. Hey, this is pretty good. We like this. What can we do with this? I sent it to Thich Nhat Hanh. He has a village in France. He's all about children. He loves working with children. He has a village named Plum Village. I sent it to Plum Village. What's the worst that could happen? I sent him an email and I said, hey, I have a children's book. It's called Be Still, Love Tree, Be Still. Mindfulness, children, thought you might be interested. I sent it to him. A week later, I got a response. This is pretty good. We like it. Thank you for this. We'll pass it on. A week after that, I got a response from them that said it was from somebody that works in the Wake Up Schools, the children's division of Plum Village, and they really enjoyed it. You can see the testimonial on the website when I give you the website address. And then a week after that, they said we've submitted it to our in-house publishing company, Parallax Press, for consideration for publishing. The cool thing about that is that was the only publishing company that I wanted to publish the book. I felt like either I wanted to do it myself or I wanted that company, for some reason I wanted that company to publish it, and they ended up sending it to them for consideration. I've since sent it to other organizations, and this past Easter, due to this one gentleman that really believes in it, he's a yoga instructor, and he's pretty well known in the yoga community. He said, hey, I really like it. If you can get me 25 books by Easter, I'm going to be teaching yoga at the White House on Easter to underprivileged kids. Can you get me the books? Yeah, sure. Okay, let me take out a credit card and charge that bad boy. Get you the books. So I did. On Easter, 25 yoga instructors from across the country were able to hold this in their hands and read it to the kids. And I've heard back from them, and they seem to really enjoy it. I ended up putting it up for pre-order. It's up for pre-order right now, and I decided I didn't want to wait on Parallax, that I wanted to do it myself, and I ordered 750 books, and they'll be here in June. And I have full faith that they'll reach whoever they need to reach. And the people that have done this before are telling me I'm going to need way more books than that. But I said, I need way more money than that. Do you have money? There's only such a high limit on my card. So that's where I'm at with the story. That's the story behind the story. So I'm going to read it to you now, if you don't mind. It is a children's story, but adults seem to like it. I know I like it. So here we go. You can watch the projector and see it. And if you'd like to actually check out the book, you're more than welcome to come up and look at it. And I'll tell you about one thing that's in the book after I read. So it starts with an introduction to my brave little trees. I guarantee you I'm going to get emotional when I'm reading this, so I might have to pause for a second. But you're more than welcome to read on. Don't mind me, I'll be over. To my brave little trees, you are stronger and more amazing. See, I'm already getting emotional. Than you could ever know. You are wonderful and magnificent just the way you are, a unique and precious gift to the world. Love yourself with all of your heart, and your life will become filled with magic and joy. Be still. I believe in you. You can do it. Love. There's got to be a better way to do it. In front of a house made of red-colored brick, a yard full of flowers and grass that was thick, was home to a new little tree that was planted right next to an older tree, bigger and slanted. Hi, Mr. Tree, said the new little one. Hello, little tree. Where are you from? I came from a nursery. It was indoors, but I'm loving it here. There's sunshine galore. He was playful and free with a heart full of glee, so grateful to be in that yard by the tree. Then one day the little tree noticed a change. The sky became darker. The clouds were all strange. What's wrong with the sky? Why does it flash? What is that grumble? The little one asked. I almost forgot you grew up indoors. Well, little tree, this here is a storm. Boom went the thunder like dynamite blasts. It scared little tree, his heart beating fast. When he got wet, he asked Mr. Tree, what is this water that's falling on me? There's so much I feel like I'm drowning, he cried. That's rain, little friend, the big tree replied. The little tree shook as a gust of wind blew and pushed all his branches, pulling them too. I want to go hide, I'm scared of the sound. I wish I could jump up out of the ground and run in the house. I feel so afraid. Oh, please, Mr. Tree, make them go away. He thought he would help him hide from the storm, but Mr. Tree stood there in powerful form and whispered, not sounding worried or thrilled, be still, little tree, be still. Soon the clouds had all passed and thunder was gone. The birds all returned for a feast on the lawn. The little tree stood there soaked from the rain, glad it was over but feeling ashamed. I never want to get rained on again. I hate thunderstorms, he said to his friend. He thought they were bad because they made him afraid, and if he stayed away, he'd be safe and okay. But a week or two later, another one came, and poor little tree was stuck in the rain. He'd cry and he'd fight, shaking in fear, praying the lightning and rain disappear. That's when his buddy would tell him, so dear, be still, little tree, be still. After the storm, the little tree slept, tired from all the tears that he wept. And when he awoke, he asked Mr. Tree, how come you never have tried to help me? The thunder is scary, the wind tries to push me, but you only stand there trying to shush me. My dear little friend, I do want to help. That's why I tell you what I tell myself. I once was a tree even smaller than you, and one day the storm came thundering too. I was afraid, but the tree by the roof said, be still, little tree, be still. She told me that fear is just like a storm. It comes out of nowhere and thunders and pours, but sooner or later it all goes away, so if you are still, then you'll be okay. Don't run from the storm, don't fight it or try. Be still and just feel it as it passes by. Feel the rain as it falls, don't say that it's bad. Hear the roar of the thunder that sounds like it's mad. Be still in the storm, no matter how strong, and before you will know it, the storm will be gone. Is that why you always look peaceful and calm? The little tree asked as he followed along. I still feel afraid every now and again, said Mr. Tree to his curious friend. But when I'm afraid, I say to myself, be still, little tree, be still, and it helps. Just as his friend had finished his sentence, crashes of lightning struck in the distance. Remember, my friend, just try to be still. The storm may be strong, but so is your will. And if the storm's throwing you roughly about, concentrate on your breath as it goes in and out. With that advice, the little tree readied to follow the steps so he could be steady. The sky became darker, the storm was now close, large and ferocious, stronger than most. He stood very still, feeling the wind shake all of his branches and pass through his limbs. He stood very still and slowly he breathed while feeling the rain pour down on his leaves. He stood very still, hearing the thunder, even when wanting to run under cover. And as the wind grew and pushed him around, he swayed with the wind while holding his ground. He said to himself under thousands of drops, it's raining right now, but soon it will stop. In thunder and lightning, he peacefully thought, be still, little tree, be still. After an hour, the storm went away. It may have been scary, but he was okay. Mr. Tree, did you see how I did? I stood really still and never once hid. I saw, little friend, you made me so proud. And now you can make it through any gray cloud. Storms would arise and storms would depart, but little tree always had peace in his heart. Then one day he noticed while looking around, the ground seemed like it was a lot further down. His trunk had got thicker, his branches were longer, he felt kind of different, bigger and stronger. Hey, Mr. Tree, what's happened to me? I used to have 2 branches, now I have 3. The rain, little tree, has helped you get strong. Sometimes what we fear is what helps us along. The rain is a gift that's feeding your roots. That's how we grow leaves and branches of fruit. If rain didn't pour, we'd always be small. You may think it's bad, but it's not bad at all. The little tree stood in amazement and thought the storm that I feared would hurt me a lot was really just trying to help me to grow. And so when the skies would thunder and glow, he'd smile and say so peaceful and slow, be still, little tree, be still. Over the years he got even stronger. The little tree wasn't so little much longer. He opened his eyes to welcome the sun and was caught by surprise. Early one morning he opened his eyes to welcome the sun and was caught by surprise. Not too far away, the length of a car, was a new little tree standing there in the yard. Hi, Mr. Tree, said the small one to him. Hello, little tree, he replied with a grin. I'm happy to meet you. Where are you from? The nursery, said the small little one. They spoke through the morning and mid-afternoon until they were stopped by the sound of a boom. Both of them stared at the clouds rolling in as they covered the sun and the sky became grim. Mr. Tree, what's going on? Why is it dark and the wind blowing strong? I almost forgot you grew up indoors. Well, little tree, this here is a storm. The new little tree looked frozen in fear. Her eyes became wider, all glossy with tears. There, little tree, don't be so afraid. But I am, Mr. Tree, will we be okay? Should I try to go hide, or what should I do? Mr. Tree didn't speak for a moment or two. He stared at the storm as he thought of the times he was terribly terrified, wanting to hide, but because of his friend who was helpful and kind, he could stand in a storm and be peaceful inside. Overcome with emotion, he smiled and cried, so grateful that he was a tree and alive. Looking back at his scared little friend, he replied, be still, little tree, be still. The end. And then this is for the kids or the parents of the kids. It's a little practice to help the kids breathe and be still. And then the last thing I wanted to end it with was, thank you for reading. Be still, little tree, be still. Please be kind to each other. You never know what kind of storm someone is going through with it. So, with the book, if you get a chance, if you want to pre-order it, it actually comes with something. I wanted to do something different. Every time I have put out a project, I always wanted it to be different in some way. So, if you pre-order the book, which you don't have to, this isn't a sales pitch, I'm just letting you know. It comes with this card. It says belief, or belief. And this little leaf right here is removable, and it's actually plantable. It has seeds in it. My idea was I really wanted families or classes to get together and plant this with their kids and watch the flowers grow. So on the card, it says, sometimes we have to see it to believe it. I invite you to plant this leaf outside with your family and friends. Watch how the storms or the rain you water it with help it grow into a beautiful patch of wildflowers. Just like the leaf, you too can grow into a flower or tree from the storms of life. Have belief in yourself and you can do it. And it gives the planting instructions here and the website. So that comes with the book. And then, as if that wasn't enough, with the pre-order books, I also am going to include a little certificate. I opened a publishing company. It's my first time having a company, so I have an S Corp. It's called SER Publishing, SER Publishing, which is my initials, which is kind of funny because mindfulness and my focus in life now is all about being. That's really our ground of being, human beings, just being. That's our, I call it the baseline. That's our awareness. That's our consciousness, just taking things in. The fact that you're alive allows you to be able to feel things through your senses and think. But underneath all that, you are just a being. When you look at kids, this is how the kids has actually helped me. It's why I think that's why it was timed that way. When you watch them play, they're just being. When they're sad, and then they move on. When they're mad, and they move on. Have you ever seen a kid get in a fight with another kid, and then 5 minutes later they're playing with the same kid? That's because as adults, we have that voice in our head that says, nah, I just got in a fight with that person. I'm still mad at them. They did me wrong and yada yada. That voice is going. It's constantly going. It's not a bad voice. It just sometimes is a little misguided. Kids really don't pay attention to that because they're just being. So they can be mad. That emotion goes and it's gone. And then they're right back to you. Pretty much. Not all kids. There's a couple that are thinking a little quicker, or have developed that little voice a little earlier. But for the most part, especially the smaller they are, they're just being. So it's funny that my mom, she said when she named me, she wanted my initials to have something. S-E-R. I don't speak much Spanish, but I know ser means to be. It's being. It's my name. So it's pretty interesting. So I named the company SER Publishing, and it comes with a little stamp. I got this little stamp thing you get when you do an S Corp, at least through LegalZoom. And so for all the pre-order books, they're going to come with a certificate, a brave little tree certificate that has the person's name on it and the stamp from the official public, and I'll sign it. Should be cool to put in a frame or something. Maybe. So that's about. And then I also have these bracelets that I recently got made. My big thing is I really just want the story out there. You can go to. See if I still. You can go to bestilltree.com, and if you can't remember Be Still Tree, I had a telemarketer. I guess when you get domain names, they call you up, try to do your website. She was like, "Hi, can I speak to the owner of Best Ill Tree?" I guess it does say Best Ill Tree. So however you can remember it, Best Ill Tree or Be Still Tree. Same thing. If you go to the site, you can pre-order the book. But you can also download a free ebook version. The same thing that I just read. You just click it and download it. Most people have been able to see it. I know you said you had.
My computer's very old.
If you have any issues for any reason, once you click on it, it should automatically download. Just do the contact form and send me a message through it, and I'll just send it to you through email. But I want to share the story with as many people as possible, so I have these bracelets that I sell for $2. And 50 cents from every bracelet goes towards the cost of a book, so that way I can just donate the book to a library or elementary school or something. And then I do the same thing with these little charms. It has a little tree on it. It's good for kids or adults. Or I'm also going to make mala beads that have the beaded bracelet, but it'll have the charm on it as well. And these are $10, and then money from that goes towards the book as well. And that's it. Do you guys have any questions? I know you probably have tests or something.
Don't you have a base also on the website? The base with the...
Oh, yeah.
Can you show that?
I try to, we're going to come up with little crafts that can also be included. So we also sell this. It's a little bowl, and it has a little tree, and the little sign says "Be still," and it has flowers, and it's cute. And if you order it and put your name into the order notes, we'll paint the name on the side, so that way on the very side on the bottom, so it'll be personal.
Christmas tree.
So we have that. We have that too. And that's it. Do you guys have any questions about mindfulness or the book or me or life in general? I spend so much time in introspection lately. It's really, I feel like it's my calling at this moment in my life. Just thinking about how I work and my inner workings and connection and people, and I feel like I have a lot to say or offer at this point, because I've literally spent the past 2 years in my mind, and I feel like I've really discovered a lot about us as people, and the things that we go through. And there is one thing I kind of wanted to try before we leave. Again, I don't want to keep you too long. But one thing I was going through, or one thing I felt when I was going through all this, and I still deal with it, I'm not saying I'm entirely healed, anxiety and stress and stuff like that, it gets stored in your body, your subconscious. There's a neuroscientist that found that your subconscious mind is actually your body. So all that stuff gets stored in your body, and then old habits, they take a while to retrain. So it's going to take me a minute to get back to where I was, but I can get back there. It's just a matter of retraining my habits and my thoughts and what have you. But when I was going through it, I felt alone. I felt that I was the only one going through that, and that kind of tacks onto it, because we're made for connection. We're literally made for connection. Biologically, there's a vagus nerve that runs from our head to our stomach, and that thing lights up every time we're compassionate or connect to people, and it gives us a hit of dopamine that says, hey, this is a good thing to do. It's what enables us to survive and thrive and keep going. So when you feel disconnected, that's why we feel so bad when we fight with somebody or disconnect, or we try to make a friend and it doesn't work out. We feel sadness from that, because it's how we're built. So I wanted to ask if everybody would be willing to close your eyes for a second. I promise I won't steal anything. And this is going to be a little bit telling, so you don't have to do this if you don't want to. But if you've ever been so sad in your life that you felt like things were never going to get better and nobody could understand, keep your eyes closed, but raise your hand. If you felt so afraid, and keep your hand up, by the way, please. Sorry. If you've ever felt so afraid that you didn't know what to do and nobody could help you and nobody really understood it, and you were just kind of groundless, raise your hand or keep your hand raised. You could also keep your hand raised from the previous one, too. You put it down. And everybody open their eyes and take a look around. See how many hands are raised? We all share the same experience, so don't feel alone. Thank you.
You've seen these guys before. Everybody's getting ready for their finals coming up in the closing weeks. Any words of wisdom for them as they head towards these final weeks? or meditation ideas? Or?
Yeah. I remember being nervous during finals. I remember feeling like I had to get it right. A lot of pressure is self-imposed. A lot of pressure is self-imposed. You know, there's pressures from life in general. But it's the voice in your head that says, I have to do this, I have to get it right, I'm not good enough, this isn't going to work, I have to study more, yada yada. And the voice keeps going and going, and it doubts. There's a lot of doubt that comes up in your mind when you're facing something that you really care about, that you really want to do well at. That doubt, that voice you hear in your head, they're old stories. They're not fact. I like to say that those thoughts are made of memories and imagination, not fact and predictions. It's all imagination. It feels real because it's your voice. You hear yourself say it, right? But here's a lesson that's a little deeper. If you're that voice, who's the one listening to the voice? If you're looking at that screen, there has to be a you and there has to be a screen. You're not together. Otherwise, you wouldn't know you're looking at the screen. You would be the screen. There has to be an observer and there has to be something being observed, which means there is space between the two of you. If you hear a voice that says, I'm not good enough, you can, in that moment, say, I recognize that I hear this voice. I'm aware that I'm hearing a voice that says I'm not good enough. That means that voice is here, and I'm the one that's aware of it. That space gives you an opportunity to choose if you want to listen to it or if you don't want to listen to it. And it might be persistent because you might have been telling yourself this for years. You may have been telling yourself you can't do this for 10, 20 years. So that voice, that habit that you've built of thinking like that, is trying to get you to pay attention to something that you've already told it needs to get you to pay attention to. It's just doing what you trained it to do. It's like a dog or anything else you train to do, a pigeon, fly from one place to another. But you don't have to. It's not set in stone. Biologically, if you remember from anatomy, we have neurotransmitters. Neuroscience says we have neuroplasticity. You've taught your brain to wire and say, I'm not good enough. You can now teach it to wire and say, I am good enough. But there has to be a point when you hear that voice and you say, nope, not going to listen to you today. Don't need you, thank you very much. I'm going back to what I'm doing. And when all else fails, turn to your senses. You cannot be in your mind if you're in your senses. Right now, do you know you're sitting in the seat? It's a simple question, but it's kind of profound at the same time because it brings you back to the now. Can you feel yourself in the seat? Can you feel your feet on the ground? Can you see me? Can you feel your hands in your lap? In those moments, were you worried about anything? You weren't. You can't. You can't do the two things at once. So when all else fails, when you find yourself nervous and your mind is running, turn to your senses. Feel yourself in the feet. Feel yourself in the feet. Okay, you can do that. Feel yourself in the seat. Feel your back against the chair. That's why in meditation, breath is so important. Or they turn to the breath because you're always breathing. Sometimes you're not breathing, and then it's important to breathe, so you might as well pay attention to your breath. But pay attention to things that you feel, and really feel them. That brings you into the now. You guys have tests coming up, right? But in this moment, sitting in this chair, watching me, listening to me ramble about this, is anything wrong? Is anything the matter? In this moment, right now, no. Everything is fine. It's not until your voice comes in and says, I got a test, I better study, something's going to happen, uh-oh, I'm not going to make it. Then it becomes a problem. But if you just sit here in this moment, right now, and just feel where you're at, everything is just fine. So just come back to that. And surprisingly, when you start to quiet that down, this leads the way. I didn't plan for this talk today. I purposely did not plan. I said I wanted to do one thing, two things. I want to read the book, And I want to have people put their hands in the air. That idea came to me about a week ago. Everything else that you heard today, including the order that I presented it in, was entirely me just being here in the moment and letting myself do what I knew I needed to do and trusting that it would happen. And I'm not an expert presenter, but I think it went pretty well. I feel like I said everything I needed to say, and I connected with you guys. But my mind had nothing to do with that. It was in, I don't know if that helps. That was pretty long-winded, but hopefully that.
I just have a comment, and I'm sure you've heard it, but
Yes.
your story and this book is very powerful. I'm so glad you shared it.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other questions before you guys go do your thing? No?
What's your neurotransmitter?
What happened? What's a neurotransmitter?
Why did you want to know what a neurotransmitter?
Oh, okay. Did you see the movie Inside Out?
Yes.
Those are kind of neurotransmitters. You remember the little balls that were coming down? They're like the little balls, except they go from one place to another, and they have little bits of information. They help two things talk to each other. It's like an email in your brain. It's got little information.
Everything to us.
Thank you guys so much.